All right, let's talk Oregon Ducks here for a second. Obviously, a massive overtime victory on the road, a big gutsy performance from Dane Lanning and his crew, and obviously an exciting win for Oregon and a great sign for their season, of course. But lost in the hustle and bustle of this incredible victory is a sign that this Oregon Ducks squad, we've seen them come up with big wins in the past, but this team is different, and we'll bring in some very important data that highlights exactly that, which we'll get to in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick, that is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, the Oregon Ducks, for the vast majority of the night in Penn State, were the more physical team. They took it to Penn State. We saw their defense do a lot of good things. We saw the running game for Oregon really take over, but credit needs to be given where credit is due. Penn State, really good football team, really good players. They fought back at home, fed off the energy of the crowd, and of course, the exciting finish we saw in overtime, clutch defensive play for Oregon to seal the victory. But let's take a step back, right? Everyone's talking about, wow, this Oregon squad going on the road, great team victory, but it's much more than that. So let's go ahead and pull up the team stats from the box score real quick, because I want to highlight something that I think is critical. If you look at the game, you just look at the numbers here for a second, there's a few things that really jump out. One, Oregon had more first downs, significantly more total yards, more passing yards, more rushing yards, more yards per pass, more yards per rush, penalties about the same, time of possession in Oregon's favor. There was that one turnover in overtime. Otherwise, there were none. So it was a game where Oregon went to Penn State and was clearly better in all phases of the game. Penn State finished the fourth quarter strong, but if you add up all the plays over the course of the entire game, Oregon was just better. Now, what does that come from, right? When people talk about this Ducks team and how they can be better and what can put them over the top, it comes from one man, and that is Dante Moore. People looked at Moore and his performance and said, really good game, not a lot of flashy numbers, but in these kind of ugly games that kind of feel like playoff games. By ugly, I mean you're not going to beat a team 60-0 in these big environments. It just isn't going to happen. But can you manage the game? Can you avoid the bad plays? Can you avoid the disaster plays and just keep the ball moving on offense, manage the game well, and come up big in big moments? And that's exactly what Dante Moore did. In fact, let's compare Moore's numbers here. Throw them up on the screen if you don't mind, to Drew Aller, obviously the talented quarterback from Penn State. And you can see, looking at Moore, 29 of 39 for 248, 6.4 yards per attempt. Nothing too special there. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. So those are good numbers. There's nothing terrible about that at all. But there's nothing. It's not like he had 500 yards passing or 400 yards passing or anything like that. I don't even remember any particular highlight plays from Moore that really jump out to me. Right? It was just good, solid, converting third downs, converting fourth downs, making good throws. When the big plays are there, taking advantage of them, making sure you don't do anything bad. If you look at Aller and watch his performance, it was some highlight plays, but he missed some throws. He mismanaged some situations and obviously had the game-ending turnover to give Oregon the victory. And I think Moore's emergence right here, and I know this is going to sound like a negative, but as a game manager, I think makes this Oregon Ducks team absolutely better than any Oregon Ducks team we've seen in years past. We've seen them have talent. We've seen them have quarterbacks that are Heisman caliber performers, like, of course, Bo Nix, like Gabriel, with the numbers they put up and how explosive and efficient the offense could be at times. But one of the things we haven't seen a lot of Oregon, and we saw it last year in the Big Ten championship game against Penn State, was what happens if the game becomes a slugfest, right? Oregon can win a shootout. They beat Ohio State last year doing that. They beat Penn State last year doing that, for example. But what happens when it becomes like an ugly game, right? Defensive game, field position game, right? Managing the game, not making the big mistake, and then making big plays at the end of the game or in overtime. How can Oregon win that? And in the years past, they really haven't against the best competition. I know a lot of people look at the Ohio State blowout loss in the postseason, but to me, that game kind of hinged on some early possessions for the Oregon offense where they just made, they got sacked. They gave a lot of long yardage situation, just didn't manage the game. Dylan Gabriel did a poor job managing the game in those instances. We saw that, of course, in years past with Oregon in big moments, just quarterback play that had been elite all season long. When it came time to postseason play, where you have to manage the game, stay ahead of the chains, avoid the disastrous sack, avoid the disastrous takeaway, they couldn't get it done, right? Nothing against Nix and Gabriel, who are very good quarterbacks. Nix doing good things in the National Football League. Gabriel may do some good things as well. Nothing against those guys, of course. But the reality is Dante Moore is taking this team to a completely different level. They're a talented bunch, and they can still drop 50 on you, right? That hasn't changed. We've seen that this season already. They can be super explosive. But the reality with this Oregon Ducks team right now is that because Dante Moore is emerging as a guy who can manage the game too, they are more dangerous than they've ever been in terms of being a national championship contender. And going into this game, I honestly felt if you told me who the top teams in football, I said it was Ohio State, I said it was Miami, and I said it was Oregon, right? Right now, in that order, right? That was honestly what I was feeling. Right now, I think Oregon's the number one team because the question with the Ducks was, do they have a game manager that can win ugly games? They can beat you in a shootout and they can just run you out the gate, right? We've seen Oregon do that. We've seen Dan Lanning's squad do that a bunch over the past few seasons. But can you win an ugly game? That was always the knock on Ohio State, by the way, for a number of years. It's like, they've got the talent to win a shootout. They can just put up a bunch of points on you, but Michigan keeps beating them because they just can't win an ugly game. They can't win a physical, close, tough game. And we saw from from Ohio State last year. They solved that with their quarterback, Will Howard. It looks like Oregon has their guy in Dante Moore, a guy who can manage the game, a guy who can stay ahead of the chains, avoid the disaster plays, avoid the negative sacks, take advantage of opportunities when they're there, convert the big third and fourth downs, which we saw from Moore all game long. Even the inaccurate throws, even the misses, they weren't like disastrous misses. They weren't like, a situation where it could have easily been a turnover. You look at Aller, for example, that final interception to end the game, right? It was a play called, it was designed to go to that tight end, but he forced it a little bit, was a little too much inside and just missed a little bit. When there were situations where it was a design play call and the defense had it covered and Penn State had it covered, Moore, when he missed, it was missing in a good spot to where the Penn State defender couldn't make the play. He understood when the time it was to take the check down and when it was time to be aggressive. He understood when it was time to duck and run and try and get yardage and stay ahead of the chains. Again, he showed up to Eugene and showed up in Happy Valley last night specifically and revealed himself to be, in my opinion, the best game manager in football. And in today's college football landscape with the extended playoff, being a game manager, being a guy to stay ahead of the chains, to control third downs, to not make the disastrous play, that is how you win championships in today's college football. Gone are the days where a Cam Newton will carry you to a magical championship run and you get to the national championship game and you got one shot to win the whole darn thing. That's not football anymore, guys. Now it's all about getting into the tournament and having a quarterback and a team that can get you all the way to the end of the tournament by managing the games, playing good, smart, situational football. Lanning has always done that as a head coach, but now they've got the perfect quarterback to carry them there, and Dante Moore. All right, Miles, I know you got some thoughts on this, but first, Oregon fans, in the comment section below, obviously an exciting victory, a massive performance, but let us know, who is your sort of under-the-radar MVP for this incredible road victory over the Penn State Nittany Lions? Obviously, this was a huge game for Penn State. This was their biggest game in probably 3 or 4 years, and Oregon, they beat them. So, I mean, that speaks a lot to this Duck squad. Give us your underrated MVP in this massive victory. Put them in the comment section below. But Miles, I will throw it over to you now. What are your thoughts on everything with the Oregon Ducks, Dante Moore, and just Dan Lanning? Just give me your thoughts. What are you feeling right now when it comes to Oregon?
Oregon looks great, Nick. They did like what you said. What the question was is, all right, they can blow someone out if it's like 55-45. This is a team to score a lot of points, do that. But can they come in when it's tight? Can they go the distance in a really tough game? And this a good Penn State team, really good Penn State team, and they're able to come and get it done. And I think, like you said, Dante Moore is a huge part of why they're able to get it done. He's turning into the guy that they need him to be. But I think also there's another part, a two-part phase of why Dante Moore has been doing so well, and the just kind of the development of why he's able to come into a game like this is because he now has some reliability at the wide receiver position, and DeCorian Moore is doing really, really well. This was, I would say, his breakout game. Didn't score a touchdown or anything, but you look at his past games over the course of the last 4 games, couple catches here, a big play there, maybe a touchdown, something along those lines. But this is a game where he was leaned on. They threw to him. He caught 7 passes for 89 yards here. Really just a freshman wide receiver that came in. We all knew he's good. We talked about him all offseason. But Dante Moore is like, hey, I got to get my guy involved. I got to really have someone that I can lean on. And he was able to come in with DeCorian Moore and just absolutely lean on this guy as the leading receiver of this team by a large margin, almost 50 yards. And he got the job done. When they need him the most, he did what Dante Moore needed him to do. So both guys, really great job by this Oregon offense. The defense, of course, made some really big clutch plays, able to close out the game in double overtime. This was just a storybook. If you're Oregon, this is exactly how you'd want your statement victory, I guess. Going on, on the road to a big Penn State team, number 3 in the country, just really come down to the wire, go to double overtime. Can you close it out and you get the win? And it's not controversial at all. It's just you played better. You're able to get the job done. I think this is a statement win for the Oregon Ducks saying, I think the numbers of who's the number one team in the country, there's always a question like, okay, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? And like you said, this was the question for Oregon. Can they get it done? Can they have a statement win? Can they be a big team on the road? And that was the case. They were able to get it done here against the Penn State Lions. So Dante Moore looked great. Corey Moore looked really good. I think this Oregon Ducks team, like you said, is definitely the best team in the country right now.
And everything about their win was sustainable. I mean, they only had 4 plays of 20 plus yards. So it's not like they big played Penn State to death. And Penn State is a really good football team. And I go back to just managing the game. If you look at this game and how it brought out, of course, we talked about no turnovers for Moore, the interception for Drew Aller. But if you look at the negative plays as well, you look at the Penn State, and Aller took 2 sacks. They surrendered 5 tackles for loss. Oregon gave up no sacks. A lot of that's on the offensive line, but a lot of that's on the quarterback, and only surrendered 1 tackle for loss for Penn State, which is a really good, really aggressive, big play forcing defense, right? That's a lot of how they make their bread and butter. A lot of that goes to the quarterback, right? Making good decisions, good reads, accurate throws, right? Staying ahead of the chains, knowing when to tuck it and run it and just get 3 yards, knowing when to throw it away, knowing when to hit the check down, and know when it's time to take a shot. Again, a smart quarterback. A lot of people were saying, listen, is Dante Moore the guy? He was a highly touted guy, but a really slow start to his career, sat on the bench last season. And people are like, yeah, is he a 5-star bust? Is he not? We talked about what Will Stein has done developing him, and we saw that like the next step in his game. We know he's a talented guy. We know he has fit in very well with this Oregon offense, but now we've seen a guy that can manage and win a big championship playoff kind of game on the road. And folks, that is a great sign for the Oregon Ducks. It makes them, in my opinion, right now, the best team in college football.